What is up, guys? We are live. We got the boys back in studio. We got my boy Evan. We got my boy Jacob right underneath. We got a lot of election updates to update you guys on, so it's going to be quite fun. We're going to try and keep this to about half an hour. We got about 6 quality things to go over with you guys, so we're going to get right to it. Evan, why don't you start us out with this breaking PA lawsuit out of
Oh
Philadelphia?
boy.
And
Yeah,
just let
no,
us know what's going on.
exactly. Yeah, so what's going on right now is that the Trump campaign went to the Pennsylvania Court of Appeals, and they've actually had a bit of a victory there. The Pennsylvania court has actually struck down an order from the Secretary of State to basically discard any of the ballots that came in essentially after 8 p.m. on Tuesday. I mean, this is huge. I mean, we're looking at potentially about 100,000, if not more, ballots that could potentially be thrown out and could flip Pennsylvania back to Trump from Biden.
Interesting. Jacob, what do you think about this whole thing in Pennsylvania with this lawsuit?
Well, the media have been talking about for the last week that this was a big nothing burger, that nothing was going to come out of it, that everything was being thrown out, and for the Trump campaign to, in a week, be able to score this is a big victory. It shows that there might be a lot more to come, especially because if they are backdating it to a specific date and cutting off a certain amount, that's where a large number of ballots came from potentially that
Right.
ended up actually flipping the state blue. So
Yeah.
this is potentially a state flipper by itself.
Yeah, I think the big thing that they ended up finding out was that this election lady who runs elections in Pennsylvania, she extended the deadline for 3 days, which the court ended up finding was unconstitutional because the state legislature runs the election laws in that state. She extended the deadline. What they also found is that they were having 2 different standards for how they were treating Republicans and Democrats who didn't properly fill out their ballot. So they were, emailing Republicans just saying, hey, your ballot was canceled, and that was that. But for Democrats, if they had an issue with their ballot, they were like texting them and being like, we'll give you a ride to the nearest polling station to come fix your ballot. And they give them 3 extra days to like literally just mass blow up all these people and try and get all these extra votes. And they said, yo, that's not cool. So the judge said, whoop, all those votes are out. We don't know exactly how many votes are impacted by this, but according to some estimates, it could be upwards of 150,000 ballots. And because we know that they were mainly just going after, the Democrats to get them to fix their ballots and not Republicans, we know that the majority of these ballots that are going to be thrown out are going to be Biden votes. So this is a huge victory for Trump, and this is not the only lawsuit. There's actually that lawsuit that the Supreme Court's looking at. Have you guys looked into that at all?
I haven't looked at it in depth, but the fact that there is, again, we talked about this on Saturday, how Alito has already stepped in as
Right.
far as what is going on with Pennsylvania, and this really was, I think, the linchpin in all of this is that Alito stepping in and saying, no, you've got to be able to at least segregate all these. And now with the Pennsylvania federal court saying, by the way, not only are you separating them, you ain't counting them, suckers. That I think is probably the biggest takeaway that we can take away from all of this. And again, this is a big, huge step. And again, I think if we're able to see all this happen in Pennsylvania, we may start seeing things fall in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Arizona, potentially Nevada and Georgia, and all these other places too. So.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Michigan, we have that the Michigan State Senate just sent a damning letter, 2 pages long, detailing all the fraud that they're seeing in Michigan from the sworn affidavits. They've got about 300 pages of sworn affidavits from both Republican and Democratic poll watchers, IT techs who worked on the Dominion software. We're going to get into Dominion here soon, which is a huge thing that you guys have to know about. But yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
Before we go further, the reason why the Michigan one is very important. The state senators found that the software that initially found the 6,000 vote flip came from the vote tabulation software, And they found that in Wayne County, which is probably one of the largest counties in Michigan, if it's not the largest, they only tested one voting tabulation machine. So they're unaware if there was any kind of problem because they didn't even test the software before they launched it.
Now, isn't that software being run in 47 counties in Michigan?
Yeah, and it's also being ran in, I
20,
believe,
30
30
states?
states.
Yeah, that's insane, people. And didn't Donald Trump just put out a tweet about Dominion?
Yeah, I actually just pulled that up too because I thought this was actually very interesting. Trump today said, report Dominion deleted 2.7 million Trump votes nationwide. Data analysis finds 221,000 Pennsylvania votes switched from President Trump to Biden. 941,000 Trump votes deleted. States using Dominion voting system switched 435,000 votes from Trump to Biden. Now that's the thing about that. That's a very serious allegation, and those numbers are very specific. Even though they do round off in zeros, they're still very specific numbers, which makes me think that in the next week or two, we're going to be seeing a lot of news come out about this Dominion.
Wow.
Which begs the question: how much did Trump know out of all of this? I mean, he's been so calm throughout all this. The day that all of this started coming down, what does he do? He goes golfing.
Yeah.
Well, what is this man thinking? What does he know? That's what I want to figure out. And the thing is that I think we're starting to see that roll out. He's letting the media and the left and all these Biden supporters basically hang themselves with their own ropes. But that's my guess anyway, before he drops the big bomb coming in.
Yeah, I think he definitely has people on the inside. You've got Sidney Powell, General McEnany, both coming out talking about Scorecard Hammer, the major issues with the Dominion. I saw a clip today from, you guys, hopefully you know, it was from 2017. Some guy was like speaking in front of Congress and just talking about all the errors and issues with Dominion and these voting systems and how just prone to error they are, and how it's like the machines are capable of like reprinting ballots and changing people's votes, and that all you would need to do is just have different software, maybe from China or something that comes in and takes over those machines, and they're completely susceptible because these machines from their hardware can actually alter votes and completely change the outcome of elections if they have bad software in them that's doing that. So that's very troubling. Interesting that Trump put out a tweet saying that 2.5 million votes were compromised by that.
Well, it just shows that right now he has everything to lose in the. No, Biden has everything to lose and Trump has everything to gain. But Trump cannot win this fight unless we are very honest about the things that we're finding. Sharing fake news articles is a really bad game plan right now. When we are the ones that have to put evidence on the table. And so, for him to put a specific news report out there with specific numbers in there, it's linking it to an organization that right now, OANN, is actually in some ways performing better than some of this traditional media outlets.
Aren't they? Them and Newsmax. I mean,
them and Newsmax,
they're the only ones.
Now.
And Fox News' nightly Hannity, Tucker, and Ingram are really the only ones talking about this widespread systemic fraud that we're seeing in all of these different battleground states where Dominion software is used in every single one. And it's very interesting that all the states that stopped in the middle of the night to recount their ballots or take their time, they were really trying to figure out where Trump was going to land so that then they could end up figuring out how many they would need to rig.
The thing is, you have 80% of Trump voters that truly believe this election was stolen from them. If you really care about unity and bringing people together, the first thing you should do is at least try to reach out to the Trump party or the Trump people and say, look, let's just prove once and for all that this was not stolen from you so we can work on bringing each other together. But instead, the method we're seeing is they seem to be silencing everybody that talks about this. In the media, for example, taking Judge Jean's show away from her because her segments were going to be all about defending Trump. And whether or not you're defending Trump or attacking him, there needs to be the counter argument to this election. Is there a possibility of a fraud? Yes. Is there evidence of frauds happening? Yes. Then why can't we talk about it? Why can't we investigate it?
Yeah, that
Well, keep in mind too.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
No, go
but
ahead.
keep in mind is that like in 2016, both Trump and Hillary had lawyers at the ready to contest the vote. And then when Trump won, and it was very clear that Trump won, even though Hillary had the whole claim of, oh, she had the popular vote, there were people who were pressuring her all the way through to when the Electoral College met in December of 2016 to challenge the results. However, she didn't. No lawsuit ever materialized, and in all honesty, it's very possible that there were accusations of fraud at that point as well, just not as much as what we're hearing now. I think if Trump did lose, we'd probably be seeing the same thing happen now as we saw in 2016. And I honestly think that if at that point, if Hillary had gone through with those lawsuits, it would have shrunk, if not completely obliterated, the entire aspect of, oh, she won the popular vote because of how many possible potential fraudulent votes there were. I mean, she won the popular vote by 3 million votes. And if she did follow through with that lawsuit in order to contest the election, even if they were somehow able to flip it. Yeah.
She was scared. I bet you they were doing this while she was running, and they just came up short because they were so shocked that Trump would turn that many people out. I bet you they just didn't even expect it.
They weren't expecting it, no.
And you know what? The difference is this. They didn't have COVID. They didn't have COVID to use, to delay the count. Right? We didn't see in 2016 this whole, we're going to stop in the middle of the night. We'll come back tomorrow. Guys, it's going to take weeks. It's going to take weeks for you to really get these results in. And the whole thing is probably Hillary was going, what the hell happened? You guys told me you were getting me, freaking 50,000 extra votes in all these battleground states, and it wasn't enough. And
because they depended on the polls.
Yeah. And they were like, well, we didn't
know.
And
this time they also depend on the polls. But what happened? Remember, we talked about this last week. The second they realized, oh no, Trump just won Ohio, Florida again. Stop the count and turn that Dominion machine on. That's what it sounds like. Because if they were not hiding something, why are they so against auditing the votes, counting the votes?
Well,
what is the problem?
And I brought this up last time where it came down, like where Arizona 2018 with the election of Kirsten Sinema being brought down, they stopped the vote when she was going to lose. And Adrian Fontes, the county commissioner, which, side note, Maricopa County has finally gotten rid of the prick. Thank goodness. And, they're finally seeing that, again, this was the dress rehearsal for here. Again, like Jacob brought up, as soon as Trump won Ohio and Florida, which are the linchpin, the last time a president won both of those states and didn't win the White House was in 1960 between Kennedy and Nixon. And there were reports even then that the Kennedys stole the election.
Wow.
And it's absolutely fascinating the more I dug into this. But that's enough of the side note. But the fact is that the moment Trump won Florida and Ohio, they stopped the count in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona. And then all of a sudden, and even then, the Secretary of State for Pennsylvania came out, held a press conference. We're going to stop the count right now. And, everyone's tired. Okay, well, everyone, good night. 2 hours later, oh, look at this, 150,000 votes for Biden? Who'd have thought? I mean, there's absolutely nothing that would really come about in any other way. This happened exactly the same way in 2018 with the election of Kirsten Sinema, and we were expected to believe this wouldn't be how they played out in 2020. Come on.
Well,
we had the same issue here in Hattiesburg a long time ago. Well, not that long ago, but our old mayor, anytime his election was challenged, he always found pallets of ballots, anything to get him. Any Mayor Dupree.
Something we definitely want to bring up at this point. There has been a hand recount announced in Georgia. I think it's important. I think it's important for us to differentiate with people what a recount is versus an audit. The problem with the recount is once you've gotten all these fraudulent ballots thrown into the pile, if you're just doing a recount, you're also counting those fraudulent ballots. And so what we need is an audit. We need to be able to look and analyze every single ballot and make sure that person's not dead, make sure there's no change of address issue, make sure they even live in the state, make sure that they match what's on the voter rolls. And we've got to demand that from Georgia. And the thing is, we have Republican control of the state legislature in Georgia, and that's going to be a game changer here. Thank God we have the Republican control in Michigan and Pennsylvania, where they are now demanding a full audit, as we talked about with the state Senate in Michigan demanding that audit, sending that letter to the Secretary of State there in Michigan. If you guys haven't seen that, you definitely want to read that letter. It's 2 pages. It outlines all of the evidence of fraud that has been outlined by these signed affidavits, and they are damning. And for people to go on all these mainstream media, talk shows or whatever, nightly news, and say there's absolutely no evidence of fraud, for Republicans to go on these shows and say there's absolutely no evidence of fraud, I mean, these people are not using their brains at this point, right? I mean, how can you look at all these sworn affidavits and just say, oh, these people are lying, when some of them are Democrats, some of them are completely politically unaffiliated. They're like, oh, I didn't even vote for Trump, but like, I don't feel good about what I saw on election night, so I'm coming forward, and we've got to protect the integrity of our elections.
And it completely astounds me just how many people are willing to cast aside these sworn affidavits as, not evidence of, at the very least, irregularities. This is absolutely incredible that people are willing to throw those away when these are the same exact type of deals that we are seeing. With sworn affidavits, they may as well be witness testimony. Like, you put them up on the stand. If you are guilty of perjury because you lied on these affidavits, you get at the very least fined a hefty amount. If not, you serve prison time.
Right.
This is big, and the fact that people are willing to hand wave those affidavits away is absolutely phenomenal to me.
Right.
Well, you also had, and a lot of the media is trying to downplay it too a lot. I've been seeing a lot of things where people are talking about people are either doing it for pranks. Guys, you don't do things like this for a prank, because like Evan said, you'll serve time for lying. This is like lying to a police officer in the court, especially if something this major. But one thing I saw that was big is that for some reason this keeps, even Drudge still had it on, that the USPS guy that came out to Veritas, that basically exposed everything. The liberal media was trying to say that he actually recanted his whole story. He didn't.
The Washington Post basically smeared him. They had a federal agent interviewing the guy and basically say, I'm scaring you. I'm trying to like pressure you to change your story because I'm scaring you. Like, you need to change your story. And he was like
basically,
you literally said that too.
Basically telling that the truth was flexible.
Exactly.
That was his only way out of it. And then Veritas even said, do you recant your story? And he says, no. He said, no, I don't recant my story. But for some reason, they're still printing that he made it up.
Yeah, he recanted his story. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Like, the thing is, they interrogated him for a long time about this. They tried to scare him. If this was a joke or a lie, the gig was up. It would have been time to give it, but he didn't. So, I mean, he's in that little bit amount of enough should have that entire county invested or audited. Just if you see one bad apple in a bag full of apples, shouldn't you pour them all out and see what other ones are bad?
Yeah.
Or do we just have to take someone's word for it, saying, "Oh, all the other ones are good. Trust me."
Well, I think with the audits that we have going on in Michigan and Pennsylvania, the lawsuits that we've already won in Pennsylvania now, the fact that the Supreme Court is most likely going to throw out all of those segregated ballots, I think we're looking at potentially, very likely, Michigan and Pennsylvania going red. In that case, we'd be at 269, even if we lost Georgia, lost Arizona, and lost Nevada. And at that point, I think we're still going to win it because we have a majority of the state legislatures, so we would win there. But we've got the hand recount in Georgia. We still have 40,000 ballots coming in Arizona. And Nevada has egregious fraud. That's where we have the whistleblower who came forward about the Biden-Harris bus and about how
talking about how a lot of votes were from out of state.
Yeah, basically what happened with that was that she was saying that all night long there were volunteers or people around the Biden-Harris bus literally filling out ballots and then busing them into the building and running them through the tabulations. And she was mortified by what she saw. And then they created a human wall. And I mean, this lady was just like, you could tell in her testimony, she was shook. And she was she was telling the whole story, you know, in great detail of exactly how she was walking, what she was seeing. I mean, you can't look at that testimony and tell me that this girl is lying. I mean, you just can't, right?
There's no point in lying about something like this. This isn't like saying you saw Bigfoot or UFO. This actually has really big consequences if you're lying.
And she
and a lot
signed
of these
a sworn affidavit.
A lot of these people, like the UPS guy or USPS, I mean, he's probably blacklisted from where he works right now.
Right.
You know, his career is over with USPS. He has nothing to gain from doing this.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I think...
You know, and they have hundreds of pages of these.
I think the important point to make is we have Republican control of Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona. So we should be demanding full audits in all of those states because all of those states use Dominion software. And all of those states now, we have sworn affidavits from poll watchers talking about harassment, talking about barred access, talking about duplicate ballots being used. I mean, the stuff... We have 400 pages of sworn testimony out of Michigan talking about how they were bringing boxes in unmarked vehicles in the middle of the night without security envelopes and without
and with
out-of-state
tags. With out-of-state tags.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is insanity for people to, like Anderson Cooper and all these freaking nutsos on mainstream media, to continue this lie of there's absolutely no evidence of fraud. I mean, this is like Russiagate all over again. Do these people think we're stupid?
Well, the thing is, if this would have happened on their side, they would have already burned down a couple cities.
Oh yeah.
They would have already been.
And the thing is, we're going to see that happen. You know, what we're going to see is that if it flips, that like the unrest will start back up again. But at least at that point,
worse than if he would have won on Tuesday.
Yeah.
The major it'll be far worse. The major difference though is that Trump will be able to institute the Insurrection Act.
Thank God.
He'll be able to send the army in
because they fired Esper.
Yeah,
Esper was not down with that.
Yeah, that's why he flipped, and that's why I'm thinking. I think he has something that we don't. Why would he care to flip all these cabinet seats? The Pentagon seats, especially ones that are loyal to him, that will enact the Insurrections Act. Why would he care about that at this point if everybody thought he was on his way out?
Yeah, I think this is what happened. This is
or Pompeo.
What about how he was saying that we were going to switch over to a second term? I think what we're seeing here is
transition to second term. Yeah,
second term of Trump. What we're seeing here is I think they've gotten enough people to come forward with sworn affidavit testimony. And I bet you they've talked to the Supreme Court justices to say, hey, what is your standard? Like, what do we need to bring? And Reince Priebus has talked about this on Hannity a few times. We said, look, you're not going to get the Supreme Court to take the case unless you have enough sworn affidavits and enough challenged ballots for it to swing the entire state. And Rudy Giuliani just tweeted that we have enough ballots in both Pennsylvania and Michigan to swing the state. We have enough challenge ballots, enough sworn affidavits to flip the state. So that means the Supreme Court, if necessary, will take this up. And I think with just the demand you're seeing from the American public for transparency and trust to be brought back to our election system, I think they're very worried about what they're seeing. And the majority of people off of the mainstream media are very concerned about what they're seeing. And we're, at least the American people, half of the country, and many Democrats, I'm going to be honest with you, many have reached out to me personally and said, look, what I'm seeing, this fraud that you guys are sharing, this is not okay. And like, even as a Democrat, we can't let this happen or continue. And this is Hillary Clinton. This is Nancy Pelosi. She owns stake in Dominion.
It's not just Democrats. You got people like Romney too.
Yeah, right.
They're
right. They're all involved in this.
We need
accountability.
Us as a voter, the voting class individual, Democrat.
Well, and the thing is that like it's about the sanctity of our vote at this point.
Right.
You know, again, I'm a libertarian. Trump wasn't really my guy in 2016 or this year. But again, like I said last time, gun to my head, I would much rather have Trump than any of the others on the ticket. But the thing is, though, is that like, you know, they took our only non-peaceful arsenal away from us, and that was our vote. It is sacred. It should be regarded as such. And the fact that they're playing with it,
Right.
like it's like it's, you know, our children playing with Play-Doh is absolutely sickening. And that's what's really at stake here, is that, you know, if for whatever reason Trump's team is not successful in this and Biden is able to pull through, and there's still some question about whether or not this is absolutely possible or not, then there's no one. I mean, we're going to be seeing a lot of people who are going to say this is illegitimate. He stole the election. And we're probably going to see much more unrest coming from both sides of the aisle. There's no way that a Biden-Harris administration is going to stop any of the unrest that's on its way. BLM is already saying you owe us. Right. And so, you know, what on earth do they think they're going to be able to accomplish by not acquiescing to the more radical base?
Yeah,
I agree. My thoughts on that is because you also see other things. It's very clear that Biden is clearly the establishment, big media, big company. Every single one of his cabinet picks weren't even selected by him. Right. Let's be honest. Right. That's super PAC money. Yep. That's Wall Street money that's throwing their guys at it. These are ideologues from the left wing that they had to make deals to get their voters to go out and vote. There's going to be a lot of bad things that would happen, economically speaking, to our country if Biden truly wins. I don't think he did win.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One big thing I think is, what's important these next coming weeks is we need volunteers. We need poll watchers in all of these battleground states. The Trump campaign has put out a number that you can call, an email. I know that there's a mighty strike force in every state that's taking volunteers. And so you can reach out to those in Utah. Lisa Shepard is in charge of that. You guys can go reach out to her. They're sending a lot of people to Nevada. They need to make sure that all of these people aren't dead. And so you're going to use this app to go and make sure that these ballots are correct and that there's no fraud going on. So we need volunteers. The thing is, if they do a hand recount and we don't have Republican poll watchers in every single county watching this, it's going to, those bad ballots will slip right through. So we need volunteers. If you guys aren't doing anything the next 2 weeks, reach out to the Trump campaign, offer yourself as a volunteer, and they will send you where they need you. But I think there's hope and optimism at this point. And I think, like you guys have both said, Trump knows something that we don't. He seems way too optimistic, more optimistic than I think. He's
also tweeting specific numbers.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And so I think, just to wrap this up, I know we got a few minutes left. I wanted to get your guys' final thoughts. So, Jacob, final thoughts from you. What do you think this all comes down to?
I think it all comes down to just don't pitch into the media. They know less or as much as you do. The only people that would know right now are the courts and the people involved. So right now, I would say I wouldn't give up hope right now. If there's anything we can do, we can at least keep fighting until the day the electoral votes are cast.
Okay. So, and Evan, that was my time limit there, right there. So Evan, final thoughts from you, man.
Yeah. So in all honesty, it really comes down to how much pressure each of these battleground states can place on the state legislatures. We need a full audit. A recount's not going to cut it. So in all honesty, if you're in these battleground states, if you're in Georgia, if you're in Pennsylvania, if you're in Wisconsin or Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, demand a full audit, not a recount, an audit of each and every single one of these votes that are coming in. And we will actually see probably hundreds of thousands, if not even up to the millions that Trump was tweeting about, completely reversed. And we may actually see some pretty interesting things coming around. Don't let the left cheat again this time. Don't let them change the rules again. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah. Guys, I have a quick message to anyone who at this point in time thinks there's absolutely no evidence of fraud. I don't want to call you an idiot, but I think you've turned off your brain. If you legitimately think at this point, with all the sworn affidavits that we have, the court cases that are going in Trump's direction now, the full audits and the letters that are being written by the state legislatures in all of these states detailing in graphic detail the fraud that they're seeing, and that's being laid out in these sworn testimonies of people under oath, people that can literally get purged for get perjury for lying, and the fact that people are not recanting their stories, even though the mainstream media is in a desperate attempt to basically just say, hey, everybody's lying about this fraud. And the fact they're getting the DHS to come out and say this is the most secure election in our lifetime. No, 70% of Republicans say they don't have trust in the system. 78% say they think fraud happened. So, I mean, you just can't tell me at this point that there's no evidence of fraud. And if you're a Republican at this point and you're standing with Biden's camp and you're not even willing to look into the fraud or admit that there's something fishy going on and demand, for the sake of the integrity of our election, for the sake of trust in our institutions, to demand an audit so that we can move past this. If Joe Biden actually won this election fair and square using legal votes, then fine. I'll say, hey, we'll deal with Joe Biden for the next 4 years. I think all of us could say that. But if he didn't, if he cheated his way to this president-elect status, and you guys are just trying to force this on us because you know he cheated, then you are a sick type of evil person, okay? If you don't know that the fraud happened, you're not aware that they're trying to shove Joe Biden down our throat before they even look into this stuff, then you need to slow the hell down and demand that we follow the legal processes in place so that we can make sure that every legal vote is counted and that those fraudulent votes that were illegally put in or that were put in without a Republican poll watcher there to make sure nothing fishy was going on, that we cleanse our voter rolls of those people and we throw out those ballots. I think that's something that both sides can agree on. And the fact that you have Marco Rubio, who's been pretty damn silent about anything pro-Trump lately, is now coming out saying this is a major issue and we need to demand a full audit and we need to look into this. If you have someone like Marco Rubio doing that, it's a clear sign and a cue to people like Mitt Romney and Spencer Cox and these never-Trumper Republicans to slow the hell down. And hey, before you get all too giddy and get in bed with Joe Biden, why don't you care about your constituents who are pissed about what they're seeing here? So that's our final thoughts, guys. We're on a 3-panel here. Let's just say goodbye. Thank you guys all for watching. This is Freedom's Future, where we're going to bring you the election updates as they come in, and hopefully even after that, we're going to give you great coverage. So thank you guys so much for being here. Sound off in the comments what you guys would like us to cover next, and what you thought. We appreciate it. So thanks, guys. Have a good night.